Hey there. We are going to do something that I would not normally do. I am going to repeat myself from the other night. And so maybe you saw the Friday night version where I talk about the good news from the previous week, even if all of it isn't good. But this is so critical. There's going to be several very critical things in this video. I really suggest you stay for the entire thing because there's lots of stuff. If you're an investor in Tesla, if you're just investing, if you just like to watch the markets, if you like to watch the economy, we're going to be covering some really critical stuff. And I'm going to end up with something very unusual, something that's completely not related to this normal Monday morning stuff that I do, but maybe you'll like it. Anyway, this is Randy Kirk. What we're going to do is we're going to repeat the CNBC quote from Mark Zandi, the chief economist at Moody's Analysts. And he said this is very, very important. It's going to be huge for this week. You're not going to lose your battle with inflation with a pause here. Insert Mr. Fed, Mr. Powell. But Mr. Powell, I'm inserting that again, you could lose the financial system. Zandi goes on to say, so I just don't get the logic for tightening policy in the current environment. What it boils down to here is that, like anything else that we do in the financial world, there is risk and there is reward. You take certain kinds of risks to get great rewards, and you take certain kinds of conservative approaches in order to not break things. There's fear, and then there's greed. These are the things that move the markets. Right now, the Fed has a lot of fear about inflation, and they're risking the economy. They're risking something significantly negative happening in the economy in order to drive inflation down another point or two, when the market and everybody else that has any sense at all can see that inflation is not the problem that the Fed apparently thinks it continues to be. Are eggs still going up because Easter's coming in a couple of weeks? Yes. Are there other issues out there that need to be addressed? Yes. But as I've continued to say, you've heard me say it, if you watch this channel, we are still working out all of the supply craziness that happened as a result of COVID. It is time for Powell and the Fed to pause. Now, this week, that's going to be broken down into two parts. Part one is going to be, do they raise by 25 basis points? Almost everybody now believes they will only raise 25 basis points, not 50 basis points. But the world seems to be on pins and needles, hoping they're not going to raise by even that 25 basis points, that they're going to leave it flat. There's no chance it's going to go down, believe me, almost zero. But maybe there's a chance that they won't raise it 25 basis points. But then that's on Wednesday. We won't hear until Wednesday whether they raised it or they didn't raise it. And then there will be a press conference and a note from the Fed. And everybody will be most concerned about what's said when the Fed speaks on Wednesday. And I'll have my regular midweek financial analysis on Wednesday, right after the Fed gets done. We're hoping that this will be not as crazy, like, no, we're going to continue to go to 5.5. No, inflation is still the biggest problem and we have to kill it, even if it means jobs. We need something to be much less, much more passive. Something on the order of, this will probably be the last hike, or we're going to look really, really hard before the next meeting with regard to whether we need to pause at this point. We recognize that these bank failures are at least partially due to how fast we've raised rates. We recognize that there's some systemic problems in the economy right now that are being affected by these crazy, they were not going to say that, but this rapid raise in interest rates. They need to say something along those lines. It's obviously going to be much more muted than what I just said, but they need to let us know that they understand, that they get it. If they don't, I would look forward to a significant downward move in the markets after that meeting. or after those comments on Wednesday. If they give some passivity, they give us some hope that this may be the end of it, and that they're really going to pay attention to these negative and these risks situations that are being created by these high interest rates, then I think we could see a stable or maybe even an up market. Obviously, if they don't raise rates by 25 basis points, or if they tell us on Wednesday that they're going to take a pause after this, either one of those things, the market goes nuts. All right. The markets as we go into tomorrow, the pre-markets right now are showing a little slight increase because UBS bought Credit Suisse over the weekend, or made them. I'm not sure that that's a final, but it looks like it's a final deal. And of course, that took another one of these difficult banks off the radar of the market, and the market was very happy to see that. There's no other banks right now that seem to be giving anybody a heart attack. We'll see how that looks on Monday, but I would anticipate that barring any crazy news in the next 14 hours, the market will open slightly higher and will probably be fairly flat tomorrow, little up, little down, maybe moving around, unless, of course, there's always the possibility of news. But the thing that's going to move the market right now is going to be all about the Fed. All right. You know my three things, the three things that I talk about in addition to Tesla with each one of these financial analyses that I do. One is the 10-year bond, and of course the inversion aspect. So the 10-year bond is down, continuing to go down. It's at 3.44 as I'm recording this on Sunday afternoon at 4:44 Pacific time. The 2-year is now only 40 basis points higher. This is extremely good news, and the market might react to that tomorrow. If we see that the 2-year continues to come down to where maybe the inversion stops, and we get a 2-year at, let's say, 3.24 or 3.14, or if the 10-year moves up a little bit to 3.54 and the 2-year stops inverting, the market could like that a lot, and maybe the Fed's doing something behind the scenes to help this along. We haven't seen any evidence of it yet, but we'll be watching for that. So again, this inversion is a major piece of the reason why we're seeing some of these difficulties with the banks, and also with things like credit cards, car loans, et cetera, being so high, even as crazy mortgage rates have been going down. So we'll see what happens with the inversion, but right now, the good news is that the 10-year bond is way down, and now the inversion is moving in the right direction. It was as high as 100 basis points, and it's down to now only 40 basis points as we talk on Sunday afternoon. Number two is oil prices. Oil prices are dropping like a rock, and right now it's at 67, down from kind of averaging in the high 80s. That's Texas crude. So I decided I needed to do a bigger dive into this. I've been watching the oil market pretty much my entire life because I was in the bicycle business. And when oil prices went crazy, bicycle sales went crazy. When oil prices drop, then people don't buy as many bikes. So I've always been interested in the oil market. And because the oil market right now is dropping rapidly, like 35% or something in a very short period of time, I was like, what's going on here? So a couple of things that are affecting it: the normal business of supply and demand. Yes, there is a lot of oil in storage right now. So there is way more supply than there is demand right now, and that supply is going into storage. And so there is some weakness from the normal business of supply demand. Number two, the U.S. government continues to sell out of the strategic reserve. Now, I'm not sure. Maybe it's something that's going to take a week or two for them to see this price fluctuation before they turn it off. But as of Friday, they were still selling oil into the spot market out of the strategic reserve, which is nuts. OPEC has not reduced the amount of production. They had a meeting recently before this drop, though, where they decided to keep production at current levels. And so that's also affecting it, that there's plenty of oil going into the system, and there's not enough winter this year in order to use it up. So those are some of the things that are going on, but who's to know what happens in the coming week? There is no real evidence of anything other than if OPEC or the US government turn those policies around, if the US government starts buying up oil again to put back in the strategic reserve, or if OPEC was to cut their numbers, either one of those could obviously cause the market to go back up. But other than that, seems like we might be sitting in this 67 range now for a while, or not, depending. There's a whole lot of things that could happen, like cold snaps or whatever around the world. Okay, the other part is that crypto is way up, and I'm just going to throw out a guess here. My guess is that that there's a huge amount of cash on the sidelines, massive, maybe the highest levels ever of cash on the sidelines right now. It's in cash, it's in T-bills, it's in 10-years. That's why the 10-year, one of the reasons the 10-year is so low. So all of this is happening right now. So when you got that kind of money sitting on the sidelines in cash, people tend to be like looking for an opportunity. How can I make more than 10-year bonds at 3.44? So what are they doing? They might be thinking, hey, I can put a little bit in crypto, and that might be it. I don't know, but crypto is definitely doing quite well right now. The shock for me is with crypto doing that well, it seems like it would be the same kind of bet that people might want to make on Tesla. Tesla's even stronger financially than crypto by a lot, because I happen to believe that crypto has no basis. There's no reality in crypto, but that's another story for another day. Tesla's got reality. It's got factories all over the world. It's got materials and machinery. It's got a brand name. It's got all kinds of incredible patents and trademarks and everything else that have huge value. It has $22 billion in the bank and is throwing off cash like crazy. There's massive value there, and there's massive potential value. There's no other company this large that has ever grown at this level before in history. Therefore, you would think that Tesla would be the place where some of this itchy finger money would be going. And I'm kind of shocked, to be honest with you. It doesn't make sense to me. Tell me in the comments below, do you have any theory as to why sideline money looking for an opportunity would not be going into Tesla, given the description that I just gave? Or maybe you've got something to add or take away from that. Anyway, what do we have in terms of news on Tesla? Pretty much I looked over everything that I could look at this weekend. The only Tesla news, other than, of course, my theory that the robots are coming really, really soon, and that could blow up the Tesla stock if it turns out that they start making these things. But in terms of what we could really get our hands on, FSD 11.3.2 or something came out over the weekend, widely released. And the videos that are coming up right now from a lot of these folks that do these videos are saying that it is next level, that it is a step change, that it is way more human-like. And I've watched a couple of these videos, and the car is doing some things that kind of surprise you. So this could potentially maybe move some retail investors to want to put more money in if they have anything left to put in. That becomes part of the problem. So anyway, that's the big thing. Don't know whether that'll move markets or not in these circumstances. But obviously, if FSD happens, if it happens even to the level where it becomes no longer in beta, but goes into full release, where Tesla says you can sit in the back seat, you can read your magazine while you're driving. The day that that happens, who knows what the market does. Even if it seems like it's really close to that, the market will probably start to respond to that, even in a negative or kind of a risk-off environment. If that's starting to look like it's real, that would be major. Okay, so I promised you something very different at the end here, and that's going to be, I'm going to give you 2 minutes on ChatGPT. If you have anything to do with communications, I don't care whether you're a content maker like I am, a writer, you're helping with the marketing at your company, you're the owner, you need to communicate with your customers, you need to do some social media, You need to just write letters. You need to find a better way to do your sales presentations. You need to create some email blast. I mean, whatever you're doing that's involved in communication, if you're involved in that or your company's involved in that, you need to be looking at ChatGPT and starting to get to understand it and know it. Watch some of the folks that are giving demonstrations on what it can do. It is absolutely crazy how good ChatGPT is, and you need to be paying attention to it. I have already used it to create titles for some of these videos. I've already used it to create descriptions for some of these videos, and I've even asked it to give me great recommendations for what I should be doing as content on these YouTube videos. I've used it for my clients already. I am a marketing consultant and help small companies get bigger. I have already started asking it for the same kind of advice with regard to content creation for my clients. It is unbelievably good at what it does. If you haven't started looking into it, it's free. You go on to ChatGPT and you can just start playing with it for absolutely free. I've already upgraded to the $10 a month version, but the basic version is absolutely free. Plenty of opportunity for you to just kind of jump in and see how it's going. Final thing is, I did a series of videos with Joe Justice. These are probably the most important videos that I've ever created. The first one went up this morning, so it's available right now. I'll give a link to it down in the description below. I'll have a second one on Tuesday and the last one on Thursday. And then we'll have a meeting with John Gibbs, Dr. Know-It-All, and Scott Walter, probably on Friday or Saturday to talk about what Joe Justice said. So this is gonna be quite a series. It's stuff that nobody knows. This is brand new. This is breaking news. This is stuff that will shock you and surprise you and amaze you. It's amazing me. And I do this for hours every day. Anyway, check those out. And as always, it's been great talking to you.